Hello, it's Pete here again. And you know what? I was just thinking, it's always nice to work with old friends. And today, this is a very old friend of mine. This is lumber. Now, the lumber 3D embossing folder was much smaller. It was a standard size, but this is twice the size. This is an A5 embossing folder. It's from Tim's new release. They're all from the vault. They're all favorites of his, favorites of yours as well. And we're going to show some techniques how to get the best out of this wonderful, wonderful folder. So let's get going. So this is my lumber. You can see with all these boards, I've used gilding wax, luster wax, Sizzix luster wax, and I've used a combination of rose gold, gold, silver, and I've used the charcoal as well. But this is obviously lumber, but let me introduce you to the others in case you haven't seen the overview yet. And if you haven't, I implore you to do so. That one is botanical. This one is foundry, another old favorite, another old classic, Tim Holtz. This one entangled, again, the depth is extraordinary. And while we're talking about depth, let's take a look at this. This is typewriter, 5 absolute stonewall classics. But as I said, today we are talking about lumber. Now, you notice in the intro we were looking at this box. I've done boxes also with the foundry and the botanical. So this one's meant to look like tin. This one obviously like metal plate, and then this one, well, of course that's wood. Now they all started off as black card. Whoa. So there's the black on the base, and that's how they all started off. But depending on what techniques and what mediums we use to give us the color. So this one was distress oxide and luster wax, and this one was acrylics. And this is what we're looking at today. Because here's another example, and this shows perfectly why having an A5 folder makes a big difference. So this is a Tim Holtz alphabet from 2023, I think. But these individual planks, of course, from the larger folder. You can cut smaller planks like this, and we saw this in the overview. So if you want to make a lovely rustic picture frame, now you can go sort of edge to edge. You could even cut these into triangles of 45 degrees to get a faux wood effect. But the good thing about this is you can have it, it's not just 5x7 or 6x8, you can have it whatever size you like. If you want to make it even more rustic, put them sort of wonky donkey like that, you know, have something like that going on. Even use a screw head brad there and there to hold those in place. Obviously you can see they're very different colorways as well. So let's just move those out and take a look at something like this. These are painted and distressed wood planks. Obviously I've used a wax resist in certain places to get that kind of variegation in color. So if you like your shabby chic, it's another way of using it. There are so many ways of using this. This is why it's an old favorite, not only of mine, of Tim's, but I guess you guys watching this at home also. But we're going to show how to get this classic wood effect. And to do that, I need to grab my old friend, the media mat. Okay, that's going to sit in the center, and this is what I'm going to use my acrylics and brayer on. But before I do, let's get some embossing done, shall we? And I'm going to bring in my machine. And of course we're using 3D folders, so we always check on our platform as to which sandwich to use. And here it says base platform, 3D folder, and one single cutting plate. If you happen to use too thick a platform for whatever reason, then the machine will simply reject it. It will realize that there's a bit too much pressure and just reject the whole sandwich, thereby not damaging your machine or your precious folder. So I'm spritzing this with water, and as I always say, it's there to help the fibers stretch and to get a deeper, crisper emboss. And let's pop that into the folder. Cutting plate over the top, like so. Open the machine, and with the switch there's just two buttons, on and off, and then reverse. So if you need to, for whatever reason, say you have a really complex die with lots of detail and you want to run it through twice just to make sure you get a lovely cut, then you can do that. And with the embossing folder, sometimes, even with the 3D, like this, I like to send that through twice. And we'll take that to one side for a second. Let's take a look. And there it is, lovely. The depth of emboss is very impressive with this, but it's so sort of naturalistic, difficult to pick up. I know it's in black card, but once we use the acrylics, you will start to see that. But it's just right. If there was too much emboss in one place, it would distort the card, and it might even tear the fibers of the card. So less is more. Now let's get this in the center, like that. So this is where I'm going to be using my acrylics, and today I'm using my Americana acrylics because I like the colors. And you can see I've got a very reddish brown, that's very yellow, that's an ochre color. Then we've got this sort of buff beigey color, and finally sort of a buttermilk. So I want to get this through because you might think just one color of brown over the top would do it. And you know what? Sometimes it's fine. But I think it's nice to just have a subtle suggestion of the red coming through and this ochre underneath. So we'll put those to one side. Now what I've done, I've cut. So we embossed before. Now this is what happens when I cut it into three, and there's detail. It is kind of in planks anyway on the embossing folder itself. So those lines are there for you to see. But one little thing, one little extra I always like to do is take a pair of scissors. You know what? This little pair of scissors I'm using is from the paper sculpting kit. And sometimes, you know, you just fall in love with a product. And these scissors are pretty much my go-to. I adore them. I absolutely adore them. They just get the job done, and they never seem to blunt. They last forever. So I shouldn't have said last forever. That sounds like I'm giving a lifetime guarantee for one of our products, which of course I'm not. But they keep sharp, and I don't know. Some things just get the job done, don't they? There we are. Let's cut this last one. So we're just doing these ends, so it looks more like a plank. There we are, cut that one, and then the next one we'll go in a bit deeper. There you go. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. It'll just give it a more natural look. But we're just going to do one of the three today. Let's take those offcuts and bring in my brayer now. Of course, this is from my mixed media toolkit, which gives you the brayer head and two palette knives. And they just clip on and off like that. I'm going to pull that down there. And we'll start off with the darker. Always go from dark to light. This is burnt sienna. So, in fact, you know, you talk about burnt sienna, this is true ochre. Sienna is actually, obviously it's an area, it's a region in Italy, and it's the soil. It's the color of the soil. I guess there's a lot of iron in that soil. So I suppose they roast the soil. I guess that's where the burnt comes from. We did do, when I was in art college, we talked about the names of the different colors of the classic standard oil paints and watercolors and their derivation and where they come from. And if you think of like Tim's distress inks, mustard seed. That was literally grinding up mustard seeds to get that yellow. Not that they did that with distressing, but that's where the color came from originally back in the day. Now, I hope that's picking up. It's quite subtle at this point. Now, the ochre will really brighten things up, but I'm not going to use much. There you go, just a little bit for this one. But make sure, what I'm doing, you see, I'm lifting my brayer, so I'm getting it all the way round like that, and then I go from right to left, right to left. And there's just enough now on there. Can you see the transformation there? Now, it's a very, very thin layer. A very thin layer, so it's allowing the red to come through. Remember, I say this time and time and time again, and I know from doing countless workshops down the years, you say, less is more. You can always add more at the end if you want, but people choose to ignore your sage advice. In fact, I ignore my own advice sometimes. But now we're coming with the lighter colors. This one is antique white, and this is that buff or beige color that we talked about. And again, this will really make it pop. But look how little color is on the brayer. That is what is making the difference here. Yes, I can add more, but that's as much as I want. Now, do you know what? I think that's pretty much spot on. That's as far as I want to go with that. But I'm going to show you another technique which this is maybe flooding the color a bit more. And I'm going to start off this time. We're going to forego the red color and come in with some of the ochre, the more yellow, or it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a sort of an American mustard, like a hot dog mustard or a Dijon or something like that. I hope I got that right. So mustard fans, please let me know. Or English mustard. Bit of English mustard. There you go. So that is going to be my base color. So this time I want that yellow coming through. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the antique white, and rather than use my brayer this time, no, I will use my brayer. There you go, I've made an executive decision. And that's the great thing about these techniques, about mixed media, is it's never the same twice. And you can just change your mind on the spot. And you know what? If it isn't how you like it, then just go back and paint over it or emboss another one. That's the beauty of having a tool like the Big Shot machine or the Switch machine and having an embossing folder. You have unlimited resources there. You just need to get some more black card, basically. But now I'm going to dry brush, and I'm going with the lighter color. Okay, this is buttermilk. This is buttermilk. And this time I'm dry brushing, and I'm not doing it completely uniform, but I am going sort of perpendicular to the grain rather than parallel, which means I don't get it into the grooves, which helps it stand out a little bit more. And I can even go, when the color kind of dries really scumbly like that, I can go back and forth. Now, that's nearly done, but look at the difference there. Look at the contrast, okay? So this one has the red base with a bit of ochre coming through. And this one we finished with the buttermilk, with the lighter of the two. Now you can stamp on there, you can do what you want. I'm just going to do one more thing, which is bring in my Distress Oxide. This is walnut stain. And pick it up. Again, this is the same tool. This is the same tool. But rather than switch the heads over, which I could, I just had a separate handle. Now, this color helps. So we'll go around the edge like that. And it's just going to deepen it. So I'm not doing it in the usual motion that we do. I'm just going to give a deeper edge, and that will help to increase the contrast when you put these two together. So you can use, there are scorched timber That is perfect for this. That's one of Tim's newer colors. So if you just want to add some more contrast, deepen it around there, around those edges, make it look more natural. There, that's lovely. But when you see it against the white, like that kind of edging that we put on there really does make a huge difference. So that's just one way. There's the other one. This one is, again, a little more of the red and yellow going on in there. We didn't use the third color over the top, but whatever colors you choose, I mean, you could go with colors like this, you know, use that lovely Bahama blue and some resist underneath. So you prime it with a red underneath, a deep red, and then add the blues, the greens, the yellows, whatever. So many ways of using this wonderful folder. And if you just want to use it plain like that, perfect. The size makes a world of difference, having these larger folders. And of course, for gift boxes, for lids, things like that, it's absolutely ideal. Whether it's a background, a large background, or something like that, the choice, my friends, is yours. So there you have it. I do love to get my brayer and acrylics out. It's just one technique, you know, there's so many ways of using these great folders, and that is one of the benefits, as we spoke, you know, of having a larger folder. But to have lumber in A5, this is it's kind of like a dream come true for me. But if you want to find more inspiration, of course, go to the usual places: YouTube, Instagram, Sizzix.com, Sizzix.co.uk. I'm sure there will be tons and tons of project ideas for this folder, and indeed the other 4 in the new Vault series. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon.